Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special session on India-Maldives relation and Operation Cactus. My name is Kalpana Pandey, a research associate at Indic Researchers Forum. Indic Researchers Forum is a security think tank focusing on issues pertaining to national security and geopolitics. The recent political development has led to strained relations between India and Maldives. President Muzu recently accused India of undermining the sovereignty of Maldives and gave a deadline for the withdrawal of Indian troops. The India-out political campaign and derogatory remarks against Prime Minister Modi by the ministers of Maldivian government have further heightened the tensions. Today, we will discuss the complexity of the situation and the historical ties between both the countries. For this, we are honored to have Mr. Ahmed Adeeb, former Vice President of Maldives, and Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, former Director General Military Operation, as key speakers. We are equally delighted to have Dr. Nanda Kishor, MS, as a session chair. Dr. Kishor is an associate professor at the Department of Politics and International Studies, Public Relations Office, coordinator of Center for Gandhian Studies, and coordinator of SAP DRS 2nd at Pondicherry University. He is formerly head of the Department of Geopolitics and International Relations, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Manipal. He holds an MPhil and PhD in Political Science from Hyderabad Central University and completed postdoc at the University of Leiden, Netherlands, with Erasmus Mundus Fellowship from the European Union. He has several publications in journals and edited volumes. His recent book, Reimagining India in the Geopolitics of the 21st Century, has been critically acclaimed for its theme and content. He has 4 books in pipeline. First, India and the Great Powers in the Indo-Pacific, Praxis of Geopolitical Imagination. Second, Strategy and Negotiation in International Relations. Third, Understanding Perception of South Asian State on Rising India, integrating Panchamrit with India's Neighborhood First policy. And the fourth one is The Art of Governing, Revisiting Kautilya's Arthashastra for the 21st Century. With this, I pass on the floor to Dr. Nanda Kishor sir to take forward proceeding of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalpana. And my special thanks goes to Yashas for having me here. It's indeed a pleasure to chair this very, very important session along with 2 eminent personalities, Mr. Adeeb and Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, whom I have extreme respects to. In the beginning, we have sort of a question answer sort of a scenario where I would be asking few questions to Mr. Adeeb on India-Maldives relations itself, and keeping in mind the current scenario. Before I proceed, I take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Ahmed Adeeb Abdul Ghafoor, former Vice President of Maldives. It also served as the Minister of Tourism from 2012 to 2015. Now, apart from this, he was also the president of the Maldives National Chamber of Commerce and Industries. He formulated and implemented Maldives' 4th Tourism Master Plan, branded Maldives as the world top luxury resort destination. He oversaw the implementation of strategic policies and initiatives to enhance the country's economic growth, social welfare, and environmental sustainability. Planning and financing negotiations and agreements to implement China-Maldives Friendship Bridge, Hulhumale, Phase 2 City, and Velina International Airport redevelopment have been some of his known works in the region itself. At the same time, I would also like to introduce our other speaker who will be speaking after Ahmed Adeeb on the issue that we are facing today with regard to the India-Maldives relations, and more so he will be largely also concentrating on the Operation Cactus, which is extremely important as we need to remember this at this juncture. Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, PBSM, ABSM, SM, superannuated after 40 years of distinguished service in the Army as the Director General Military Operations, DGMO. One of the most important functionaries of the Army, Indian Army. As the DGMO, he was directly responsible for talks with his counterpart in Pakistan to ensure sustained ceasefire, first of its kind, and which was much appreciated by the national polity itself. He was instrumental in giving much needed focus to capability development and capability enhancement along our northern borders and effective management of the line of actual control and the LC. His operation experience is varied as he has actively been part of Operation Raksha, Vijay, Rhino, Hifazat, Orchid, Falcon, All Clear, and Cactus. That's the Maldives one. The general has also vast experience in disaster management. You would know the type of experience that he brings in when he speaks. Now, at the outset, I would head towards Mr. Adeeb. Welcome you again. First and foremost, it's much important for us to understand the sort of scenario that has arrived, which has led to lot of speculations in India-Maldives relations, and there seems to be two set of narratives that have emerged, saying it's very natural for a country like Maldives to look up to someone else, and they are also trying to expand themselves, and they're trying to look for opportunities. But at the same time, they have been very cautious, including the opposition parties and others in Maldives, suggesting that perhaps when you are making new friends or you're bringing in, one should not forget those who helped you to sustain and those who helped you to be what you are today, and they have been the greatest supporters so far. Now, on the other side, there are also other people who outrightly say that Maldives is wrong in what it's doing. Perhaps when it gets into a crisis, maybe in the future, or the way it happened in the late 80s, perhaps nobody else will come in to rescue other than India because it's India's backyard. There might be a possibility of others coming there to exploit, or others are coming there to look into their own opportunities. But India has been a country which has been extremely consistent with regard to its enlightened national interest. I keep telling even my students on many occasions, a lot of them are there today as well in this particular meeting, that national interest can be narrow at times and it can also be in the wrong direction. Whereas enlightened national interest is shared prosperity, where I would want to grow, but I also want my friend or whosoever with him associated also to grow. So where India has been consistent with regard to this enlightened national interest, there seems to be a sudden shift, and there seems to be a sudden interest in the relations where it is taking different turns, and each of them have been coming up with their own narratives. There have been missteps, and there have been some amount of reconciliation. There have been some amount of strain in the relation itself. Now, my first questions to you two would be that President Muzu's whole political campaign was based on India Out campaign. There's no doubt about that at all. Now, the recent derogatory remarks against the Indian Prime Minister, who's considered as one of the tallest figures across the world, from the United States to France to UK to most of the great powers and major powers, have been considering India in most of their meetings to everything. There's no possibility of leaving out India in their talks to everything. That's a sort of stature that the Prime Minister carries with himself. But unfortunate part was the type of remarks that came from three important members of the president's cabinet. That also reflected indirectly that as if there was some sort of a sanction to go ahead with such type of pronouncement of the sentiments. Now, do you believe that due to domestic politics of the Maldives, the bilateral relations between the two countries are some sort of in a stage that is beyond repair for the next, let's say, at least half a decade? What I mean is maybe next 5 years, perhaps. I would request your comments.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here in your esteemed conference. Um, as you rightly pointed out, the last election of Maldives, which was held in November 2023, basically was the main election was held on India Out campaign by the Progressive Party of Maldives. But if we go a little back to 2013, when President Yamin was elected, and also the President Nasheed before him, all the presidents has visited India. Even President Yamin visited India. India was very close with us, and as well, it was President Yamin who signed the second helicopter agreement, and he requested for another Donia agreement. So basically, after signing those agreements, this is used for for the evacuation of medical personnel from the islands to Mali. And then after that, during 2015, President Jammeh started arresting, clamping down on opposition as well as on his party itself. I was also jailed. A lot of members of opposition was jailed. And then it was the time that India, as a democratic country, asked him to not to arrest people, respect human rights, and that's where President Jammeh started kind of anti, not campaign at that time, but he leaned towards more towards China, and he tried to not to extend the visa of the military personnel who were there in Maldives to run these helicopters and donors. But in that election, he didn't win, and then. After 2018, President Solih came into power, where there was a very good relationship with India. And again, President Yamin, after losing the election, he started an anti-India protest after 2018 because he sees that even during the COVID, it was India who helped Maldives. President Yamin was expecting Maldives to go bankrupt and the government to fall, but it never happened. India helped us through most difficult times. Even when the whole world was closed down, there was a air bubble created so that Indians and Maldives can freely travel between us through airlines. So that's why the tourism boomed. And after COVID, I mean, even before COVID, when I was the tourism minister, also we started from 2012 branding Maldives as the top luxury destination. We started bringing in a lot of Bollywood actors and actresses for the Maldives marketing campaign on social media and influencer campaigns, which really worked. And by the time COVID was almost finished and opened, India has become the biggest market for Maldives tourism, and Maldives tourism heavily dependent on India. So basically, President Jammeh made this. I would say he made this campaign so that to attack the sitting president, saying that he was leaning towards India, we are losing our sovereignty. But we are talking about things that happened when he was the president. He signed it. So this was not any kind of a reasonable argument, but he brought this into Maldives politics, and internally because of this politics, it became an election issue. And after that, President Muizu got elected. President Muiz inherited this India Out campaign, and also very soon after getting elected, President Yamin and President Muiz has gone separate ways. President Yamin is forming a new party, while Muiz has inherited the Progressive Party with all those extreme views, the supporters of President Yamin as well. So what I saw was that coming into power, it's been just 30 days after taking oath on November 17th. Just 2 months, 2 months after taking oath. What I see now is that he couldn't control the President Yamin supporters who are activists, who has become state ministers, deputy ministers, who said derogatory remarks, racist remarks actually against Indians, and it became a full-blown diplomatic crisis. It became diplomatic crisis because I would say that Maldives government reacted very slowly, I would say, and suspended them. But I mean, the right thing to do, they should have removed them immediately, asked for an apology, and also President Muiz should have reached out to Prime Minister Modi, but it didn't happen. And then at that time, President Muiz was in China, and when he returned, what we saw was that he went totally against India, and that's the situation where we are facing today. I see that when I look from a little bit far away, what I see is that Dr. Muiz is trying to fill in the shoe of President Yamin. So whatever President Yamin did, he wants to do it double or triple so that he can gather all the supporters, so that because there's a parliament election coming up in 2 months. So even though there's a president, if the president doesn't get the parliament majority, it will be a very limited government. So likewise, he's trying for it. Again, internal politics of Maldives is playing at the international level, where we see is that President Moise is trying to become a more to show the PPM supporters that he's more strong, he can do more. But it is really hurting the relations between us, Maldives and India, and whatever we have between us, the most historical phases where it's not only the tourism but also bilateral help as well as military assistance whenever we needed, even if it is water crisis. And also, if you see that Maldives is going towards a financial crisis, there is a lot of external debt which is need to be paid. And if you see even last 25 years, if there's any budget support or any currency swap, it has been always India who's done for us. So I think sooner Dr. Muiz will also realize that even there are other friends, but these are special things that only a neighbor to a neighbor can do. And I really hope that that this is not going to be permanent. I hope that sooner the Maldives government realizes that it will be better.
Thank you. I think that's a statement that's coming from someone of your caliber, who's seasoned, who has been there in and out, and who understands international politics much more than those of them who have just come in and they are still very nascent to the whole scenario, and they're able to make such type of comments. What I also see is that you're bringing a domestic angle of two leaders belonging to two different groups as of now, which used to be one, and now it's turned out to be two, trying to regain supremacy among their followers and seeing to it, or trying to show that I'm equally better and I can do better. I think that's the sort of scenario that I can see. But at the same time, I think the time it happened was also very crucial. For me, I can speak from two perspectives. One, it might have been to appease China to an extent, to say that, see, we are able to do this one, and then we would want to have you. That can be one of the views. And second one, it can be that because he was then going there, and any sort of reaching out to India or trying to normalize the situation also would make him to look weaker in front of the Chinese political class. That also might have been one of the reasons why it might have turned out to be that way. But nevertheless, it's very, very important, because experience is not something that can be brought by anything. Not money, not anything else, but experience comes through a lot of mistakes, then perhaps blunders. But only thing that India is as of now trying to look at is that if a mistake, a blunder is second time, perhaps third time, it would be a very, very conscious sort of a decision that would make India to make its own moves, which certainly India will make as of now, because perhaps had it been some other prime minister or some other scenario, it could have been different. The current prime minister is an extremely popular prime minister, and he has his own standing across the world, the way he's been respected to everything. That might have been a wrong calculation from the other side. But nevertheless, my second question too is that President Muizu recently concluded his China visit, which saw also 20 key agreements being signed between both of your nations, and elevation to a comprehensive strategic and cooperative partnership. Now, however, if you look in a little more deeper and go into certain terms from knowing bit of economics, World Bank in its October report had cautioned Maldives for its economic cooperation with China, because around 37% of the share in Maldives' total debt is that of China itself. And there are fears that a free trade agreement will push Maldives into a Sri Lanka type of debt trap. Now, Sri Lankans are feeling the heat of it, the brunt of it, and then they're still unable to come out of it. Similarly, there are security concerns for India due to Chinese involvements in the island. There's no doubt about it. But more than anything else, even in a type of a debt trap and a situation that happened, India would not exploit. India would certainly want to help out the way it did to Sri Lanka. But this is a caution that's coming from not just India, but coming from certain agencies which have their own standing. Perhaps your comment on this one would be helpful.
Thank you very much. As you see, when he concluded the China trip, before going China, there was a lot of expectation of budget support because, as you see, the financial crisis is looming towards Maldives. There's 35% of debt. I think only there was talks about giving a leeway for the next 5 years for the Chinese loans, but it's not only the Chinese loans which the debt we have. We have already debt to GDP is above 100%, and as well as there's every year we are paying around $400 million for external debt, and on 2026 we have to pay $1 billion. We are a country of 400,000 people only, and also with a reserve of only 150 to $170 million. It is impossible to pay these loans at once if you are going towards it. So there has been no solution yet being given to this debt, and because of that, the borrowing limits of Maldives will be very much limited, as you mentioned. The World Bank has cautioned, IMF has cautioned, everyone basically has cautioned. Even our the people who rate our debt, Moody's and all, has downgraded our debt. So basically, what the most important thing what we went for, we didn't get it. Basically, there was no budget support. There was a grant of 120 to $30 million, but that is also projects where the Chinese companies will come and do the roads and other infrastructure projects. So basically, these 20 agreements are MOUs, and I see that there's a caution from the Chinese part as well, because normally China also decides to engage more heavily with a government that has kind of more majority in the parliament. So we are yet to be seen in 2 months what how the election results will be. There has been a recent election just 2 3 days back. It was by-election of Malé mayorship. This is a very important election for Moise because that was the seat where Moise was before he became the president. But he couldn't defend that seat. MDP opposition got elected by 50% votes, where only President Moise party got only 29%. So this shows that the Mali, the capital city, has already turned around within the 60 days because where the people of Maldives look for stability, close relationships with India, and as you rightly mentioned that Prime Minister Modi is now not only the Prime Minister of India, but is a global leader. He's been respected everywhere. And these comments from junior ministers, I think still up to even now, there has not been sufficient action taken, and it's very sad. And people expect, and most of the intellectuals of Maldives are in Mali, and they expect any president to come in to be more stable, more diplomatic, and be more consistent. And as well as we found out that President Moise was the only president who didn't visit state visit to India as his first state visit after taking oath and getting elected. So what I see from China, the results were, I mean, the most important thing to us has not yet been achieved. But as you said, since Yamin was very strong with China, now Moise wants to be more strong with China, and they are trying to appease more to get more. But I don't think that what we really need has yet been achieved.
Thank you. I think that's the flashpoint that I was about to talk about, that it was a prestigious battle of the mayoral election, that he could not perhaps put up his image as a strong leader and then perhaps someone who was talking about. I think if it was emerging from the domestic, I think there has been an answer from the domestic itself, with a country that's so dependent on tourism to many other things on India. I think it's very, very clearly visible. It has already started hurting, and a lot of them must have been anticipating the year to begin in a very good way, with the type of reservations to a lot of other things that were there from the Indian people. I think that's turned out to be the other way around. Now, there where I'm coming to the next point on along with what has happened is, apart from the suspension, we continue to see the type of statements and the type of tweets that come from some of these junior ministers are still quite on the turn of radicalism. So there is some fear that I'm apprehending, and I'm trying to bring into your notice to invite comments. Let's say something like the 2022 Yoga Day celebrations. It was attacked by the Islamists, and then subsequently the police also advised against the celebration of Christmas in the inhabited islands itself. Now, apart from this, if you look in, Muhammad Nasheed was attacked by the Islamists for the type of respect that he showed towards India and towards other religions. Now, do you believe that President Muizu's term would also further, in a way, will end up supporting the radical elements in Maldives? Because Maldives, I'm not really sure whether it is in a capacity to speak on those terms where it can antagonize people belonging to other religions. When you're so dependent on tourism to many other things, you want to have that world view. You would want, like you yourself tried your level best to make it as the best destination for tourism to everything, keeping that the cosmopolitan look to everything to make people comfortable whosoever comes in. It's not that people don't have an option. People still have an options in Mauritius and Seychelles. India itself is developing a lot of these places, yet Maldives has some sort of an attraction which is quite important. And if the radical elements start operating, if the radical elements start taking roots more stronger, and the president is unable to contain or control that in the very early stage, do you think that it will slide towards more radical society or more radical elements taking center stage? Some comments from you.
Um, yeah, if you go to the history of Maldives, we have been there for thousands of years. We have been a very moderate society, which started our tourism in 1970s, welcoming Europeans, and has been serving all the tourists. And if you see after democratic reforms, there has been a voice of radicalism, which is becoming more and more every day. But if you see any religious party, you will not find any elected personnel. They have tried to come into our parliament, but just not even a handful of people were elected. Not even the councillors, the local councils was religious people were elected, because Moldovan people, the majority of people take religion as a personal thing, where religious scholars are expected to be not political, but more people who would like to explain the right and wrong for the people, rather than going into the politics of it, and trying to influence all the issues. But as you rightly said, that radicalism has been growing, and it has become a danger to our nation, as well as the last government, President Solih's government, also tried to contain it. But as well as there were incidents like the Yoga Day, and then that attack on President Nasheed was totally unacceptable. And likewise, we have been seeing radicalism growing over. So as you rightly said, that the radicals, the religious groups, has been getting more emboldened with the new government coming in, and as if what we are seeing is, like President Yamin did when we were also in the government. He just out of the blue, he said that he's going to implement death penalty, which was in a moratorium for 60 years at that time. So in 2014, he just openly said. So personally, I asked President Yamin, because I was a tourism minister, and I was getting every day letters from European associations, because we all know our judiciary is not up to a level that, who can conclude this by far. So we need judicial reforms, and there are many other reforms as well. So I was getting a lot of pressure from European Union and other travel big industries. So I asked personally, President Yamin, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to seriously implement this death penalty? But he said, no, I'm just trying to influence the hardcore religious people. so that at this time the opposition will say that not to do that, and then the opposition, the MDP, will become irreligious people, and then President Yamin will become a very religious people. So likewise, it was also used as a political tool, what I saw from there. And then suddenly, and then after that, President Solih's government, again, the cabinet decided on a moratorium on the death penalty. And yet again, this government, just within 30 days into the government, they have openly said that they are going to implement again death penalty. So what I see is a little bit of appeasing the religious factions or the groups that are in Maldives. So these are the kind of dangerous politics that is not to be played, because these are the elements that cannot be controlled by any government. And if they are emboldened and if they are encouraged, I think there will be more consequences to the nation, and also to the region. So it's very sad to say that that we are going towards that direction. I really hope that there will be reforms, because I know even now there will be a lot of pressure from the tourism industry in global against it. So that's where we are going. That's what we are seeing today.
Yeah, I think because why I brought this up is also, if you look in the Easter attacks in Sri Lanka, subsequently the tourism industry went down very badly, and because it brings in a sort of fear that people would not want to come in and take risk and then venture into by spending so much of money. I think it makes sense, and perhaps Maldives should try learning something from Sri Lanka and the type of radical elements that led to the condition that Sri Lanka is going through now. But nevertheless, now that takes me to the last part, which several years ago Maldives tried showing to the world that you're drowning. Your ministers went down and then tried holding a conference to tell the world that climate change is going to affect the island nation, and then we're going to be doomed. That's going to be my last question. Now, if you look at the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP projections, Maldives being the lowest lying country in the world with no immediate neighbors on the mainland, highly the heavy population density that you have, and also an over reliance on the climate sensitive sectors such as tourism, fisheries, which are going to be very vulnerable to climate change because of the sustainability component. It is estimated that Maldives will lose most of its land area by, let's say, 2100. That's the type of projection that they're giving. It all because as of now itself, Malay is dependent on food imports to a lot of other things. Now, how will Malay mitigate these threats to survival without maybe help from a bigger country like New Delhi? I'm not really sure if China would want to pitch in there, if China would want to help in mitigating component, because at the end of the day, politics doesn't matter for climate change. Climate change doesn't talk or work through the ideologies or isms or anything of that sort. It requires an amount of empathy. It also requires a bigger heart to go and help out, like the way India did in an extreme condition where internally inside the country we had some quarters of the country talking about when we are unable to vaccinate our own people. Why are we trying to give it to others? And India said that's India's responsibility. With visibility also comes vulnerability. There's no doubt about it. And India has learned it over a period of time. Now, what do you think about this concept of climate security, and then what probable role that India can play? Should Maldives think in long term about its own survival and then rely on those tested friends than trying to think about that somebody else at some point of time will be able to do it? Perhaps your take on this one would be really helpful, because you being from that sector, someone who's been a friend of India and who has tried helping Maldives in a big way at the international forums. Now, this is a sustainability issue. This is also a very sensitive component, because that's going to be a disaster for Maldives in terms of the climate change. Probably your comments on that.
Thank you very much. Yes, climate change has been impacting Maldives all through these years, and sustainability has become very important at the heart of Maldives. If you see, the younger generations are very much for it. The sustainability, Maldives has adopted several protocols. We have banned plastic, and we are doing everything on our own to contribute to the climate change. All the governments has contributed to it, but what we see is that the way the scientists has predicted the sea level rise. What we can say is also there has been flooding of the capital city. Every monsoon, the beach erodes. So all the resorts has to replenish their beaches. So it is kind of we are being resilient. And the most resilient thing I would say that Maldives has done is we have created our own two cities next to our capital city, so which was reclaimed by sand, and then it was protected by boulders and river sand from India. So we increase our these new islands that we make. We increase by 1 to 2 meters above the sea level, so that it has become after tsunami we are building the islands above 2 meters, so that it can be more helpful whenever there is such an incident. But this is also helped by India. I mean, if there is boulders, rock boulders, everything comes from India. So if it wasn't for India, I mean, we have to bring it from very far away. And even for our all the construction works, it's the river sand, cement, everything comes from India. So India has been very helpful in that way. We have been very resilient. We are building. So these two cities we have built is bigger than the Male itself. So likewise, we are building now resorts, tourism resorts also by reclaiming the islands, because we have several of lagoons. So we say that the land which is diminished by the climate change, we are creating more land. And what we see is there's a natural growth of the corals, which increase our the level of the land. I mean, if you compare to the sea level rise, it's just, I would say, equal. But we have to accept the fact that there will be more challenges going forward. The environment will impact us, but we also have to be resilient, and we had to choose close partners, so that we can get more help from India, so that we can build our country, be resilient, and face the climate change more. I would say we had to be more ready for it. What I see is the biggest impacts of climate change, even like the tsunami, and as well as the beaches, everything gets eroded every year, kind of that. But I would say if it wasn't for this, again, I would just like to mention that we get rock boulders, river sand, everything from the Tuticorin, which is very nearby to Maldives. If it wasn't that, it would have been very expensive for Maldives, and we couldn't have, we would have never afforded that. But it was India, and we should go forward with India and be resilient, and work towards climate change in a better way.
Thank you, Mr. Adeeb. Indian strategist and teacher, Kautilya, he says in his Arthashastra that the leader, however great and however good he is, he requires good counsel. He requires whom he calls as Amatyas, because he need not be an expert, and he cannot be an expert on all the subjects. Perhaps we wish someone like you or some more people who are well aware of the situation would be the good counselors to him, and then Maldives gets a better feeling of India-Maldives relations, and we grow together better, and we enter into that shared prosperity region. Again, I am exemplarily thankful to you for accepting to be here amongst us. And there are a lot of youngsters who would have wanted to hear from the horse's mouth, and you have been one of those. And we are extremely thankful to Professor Srinivasan for being instrumental in bringing you here. And we appreciate your time and the concern that you have shown with regard to India-Maldives relations. And we expect more and more cooperation from your side and more insights in the days to come. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
As we have proceeded further now, without much delay, this is one of the reasons why I also happened to introduce General Bhatia much before we began with the session itself. Now, without wasting much time, there are a lot of youngsters who are students of strategic studies, international relations, to all those things. So, to begin off with, and then subsequently you yourself can take it further, you can give us a brief understanding of the India-Maldives relations from India's perspective, and then a person with the experience having been there and having been part of most of these operations, most of these preparations, the way it is, perhaps if we can throw some light on India-Maldives relations from India's perspective, and then subsequently Operation Cactus. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nanda Kishor, Session Chair. Thank you so much, former Vice President, Mr. Ahmed. Actually, it was listening and learning from your conversation. I think that should carry on rather than deep trying to give a perspective of India. However, now that I've been asked, let me also put it, try to cover the Indian perspective. Unfortunately, the present is important, but the future is more important. And as I see things, what has transpired, I will not go over what's transpired. India has still, I think, reacted in a very mature, responsible manner. I'm not talking Indians, I'm talking India. Right? There's a difference between the, Indians, naturally the Indian population, there is anguish and anger, and especially with the tweets against Prime Minister, who is, of course, the Prime Minister, largest democracy in the world. And so there it is quite natural. But India still has reacted in a very mature manner. The statement of Foreign Minister, Mr. Jaishankar's politics. But I think it's politics and geopolitics both. When I say politics, it's the politics within Maldives. When I say geopolitics, it is geopolitics of China. Because China has, China's policy with India is that of containment. And it's containing India, whether it's on the northern borders, the land of actual control, whether it's Sri Lanka, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's Bangladesh, Nepal, even Bhutan, the boundary talks are progressing, and also Maldives. And Maldives was very important, actually. If you look at it after Hambantota and Gwadar, and the Gwadar agreement, the lease of Gwadar agreement was signed on the 14th of March 2013. And Mr. Xi Jinping took over as the president on 13th of March 2013. And within 24 hours of his taking over, he signed the Gwadar agreement. So I'm just trying to put it in context as to the importance of the of Gwadar, Hambantota, and Maldives, which is of course the connect between Gwadar and Hambantota, and gives fair access to the Indian Ocean sea lines of communication, which is China's vulnerability and China's strategic concern also. So when we talk of China geopolitics, China practices sharp power. It's got three strategies, and Dr. Nanda Kishor covered one of them, which is debt trap. And the second strategy is, of course, world diplomacy. And the third one is military coercion. And military coercion is what China's tried along the line of actual control on northern borders. And debt trap is it's on in Sri Lanka and Maldives now. And I see if corrective measures are not taken, unfortunately, the worst case scenario is Maldives becoming a client state of China. Let me put it very, very bluntly. I'm a soldier, I don't mince words, I'm not a diplomat. And that would not be in the interest of Maldives, the Maldivians, and India also. Because we've seen what happened to Sri Lanka, it's covered up. Sri Lanka is and India, on the other hand, has always, we've got shared concerns, we've got mutual interests, we've got shared values between India and Maldives. Like you rightly said, we are immediate neighbors. We have always been, we got medical treatment given at this military base you're talking about. It's not a military base, actually. You said so. These are a couple of helicopters, a couple of Dorniers to ferry patients and do medical treatment. You don't have a military base. And India has never had military bases outside. Look at Indian military and India's history. And history is very important. In 1952, it was Nepal, we came out immediately after that. 71, liberation of Bangladesh, we came out within 10 days. And it was a massive access to bring the troops back. Sri Lanka, 87 to 89. Maldives itself, 1988, I was there of Cactus. And on the 3rd, we went in. 4th morning at 2 o'clock in the morning, the president was safe. And we were inducting on the 4th, and we started inducting on the 5th of November. Right. And I still recollect the president telling us, he says, happen what may, I want the civil aviation to start operations from Honolulu, because we can't interfere with the tourist industry. And the fourth evening, the first night from Singapore Airlines landed. I was at Honolulu Airport myself. So that was that was something which the vision of the president was at that point of time. And you yourself have been the vice president and tourism minister. You know how important tourism is to Maldives. And today, Indians are, it's not a preferred option anymore. And if you think that Chinese are going to fill in, I don't think that is a very good idea, because China comes with its own problems and own baggage and with its own interests. Nothing comes free in any case, whether it's, and India has always held out. India has never, we came out, or we started on the 5th, and then we were there for 1 year only to build capabilities. We ensured, when we went in, zero collateral damage. Zero collateral damage. There was not a single casualty during the operations. We got all the, MD progress slide had taken hostage. We got each one of them back, 38 of them, and you're aware of that. And all the leaders and the plot chaps were taken into captivity. And they were, they were in the jail, in the Kamadu jail. They were there for 1 year, and we came out of that. We built capability. So we're not a nation which has got expansionist, agendas, and we have always been there. And Sagar, of course, the security and growth the region is the Prime Minister's vision, and that is where we're working at. Now, when we talk of Chinese money, it comes at a great cost, actually. Ask Sri Lankans, ask others, even countries like Italy, they're not now endorsing BRI anymore. Africa is not endorsing BRI, and unfortunately, President Mizo is gone, and he has endorsed BRI. BRI is a debt trap, and when the containment of India happens and the debt trap comes in, my worst case fears are, and I hope I'm totally wrong in this, China getting an island, making enough harbor space to berth their Chinese Navy, including they could go for a really deep seaport, and they have the capability, infrastructure, they can do that. They made the friendship bridge between Honolulu and Male, and berth one of their fleets or a carrier in the long run. I'm not talking about tomorrow. In the long run, we could look at that strategy. Because the competition is not only China and India, it's also China and the US strategy competition. So that is where Maldives becomes a client state of China. What do we look at? What do we expect from Maldives? Not really. Indian aspirations are one of peace, security, and growth and economic cooperation. So that is not very much. And what happens now is with people like you, thinkers like you, who gave us a Maldives, perception at an extent, Mr. Adeeb, I must say that, and we have hope. Very, very responsible perspective given by you. We have hope, and we should look at the India-Maldives relation and Indian-Maldivian relations in the mid to long term as getting back on even keel, and whatever is happening right now. Possibly it's a temporary jolt, and every relation goes through a temporary sort of a thing. So that is what we are looking at, and let the medical continue, let the education continue. A lot of Maldives come to India for education, so it's not a thing. And I know it's a big industry. The Maldives can also say that if you contribute to tourism, we contribute to medical. But in the end, it is not only Op Cactus, it is also tsunami, it is also Operation Neer, when in 2014 December, when the desalination plant was not functional and we provided water. It was COVID, and I think is more important is the connect between people to people, the language which is common. It is not very common, but it's easily understandable. The way in Malayalam and Tamil and a mix of Hindi and Sanskrit and English, of course. So I think I'll end out here. We also out of time, and rather I will listen to more to your perspective, sir. And it's been an education listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think what I exactly see here, we have this extreme respect for those two individuals who were involved at that particular point of time in this whole scenario. One was Mr. Sen, other was Mr. Sharma. Both of them require an amount of applause at this particular point of time. But the type of response that India showed and the time that it took, and in no way or in no time that it was able to respond to it and it was able to save a country, should perhaps come back to. It is not here to emphasize to them that we were there, or anything of that sort. A bit of gratitude, and also a lesson that should come from history, from Thucydides to Sun Tzu to Kautilya, to a lot of them. What I have said is that you will not have a life where you yourself will commit all the mistakes and learn, but at times you should learn from others' mistakes and then reduce the risk of putting your country through a particular situation or vulnerability. Now, keeping that in perspective, this would also be interesting, saying that let's imagine a scenario that India pulls off its troop from, let's say, Maldives, and they're also heavily dependent on the Chinese, or they think that they can manage their self, and there's a hyper notion of sovereignty that has suddenly, emerged in them. What would be a scenario? Let's imagine whether it is the radical elements, or if there is some other sort of a crisis, from natural calamities to other things. Who do you think would be the first to respond to in this type of scenario? Do you think that the aspiration part of a particular country's national interest and the operational part are two different things? China's geopolitics so far has been extremely aspirational, where it wants to gain things, where it wants to take things from somewhere there. But from the operational perspective, it is still not ready, and it doesn't show that sort of an attitude where it is ready to come and take risk or get involved and then do something that is really required, like, let's say, something like an operation to pull out someone from a crisis. In such type of scenario, what is ideal for from a Maldivian perspective as well as from Indian perspective? What do you think would be a scenario here?
The question was to.
Yes, sir. So you,
okay, right. Thank you. I think we have the capability and the capacities to come to the aid of our neighbors in times of crisis, be it HADR missions, as was seen in tsunami, or the earthquake in Nepal, or the cyclone in Bangladesh, the food scarcity in the northern regions of Sri Lanka. So I think India would be a natural partner. So though in 1988, the invitation to save President Gandhi was first to the US, Russia, Soviet Union at that time, UK, Pakistan, and then India. But India was the only one which had, which gave a quick response. And unfortunately, that time, blind response. It was a blind operation we carried out. It's a mission impossible. We had zero chances of success, and failure not an option for us, right? Because once you go and you have, the president had to be. The mission was to rescue the president, and that was the first mission. And after we did rescue the president, honestly, it was a totally blind operation. We did not know anything about anything, and we just landed at Lule. It was a very risky one. Now we have, of course, capacity. That time NSS did not have the capacity. We did not have the linkages with NSS. We didn't have the communication. We didn't have the Google that time. So things are not known to us. Honestly, till the very last, we did not know that Halule and Malay were two different dialects. We Indians are, not that I'm saying that thing, but the people are so good when we landed out there. The people are so good. A cyclist was there, and we asked him, we are Indian Army is here, and we want to rescue the president. And he says, I don't know where the president is, but I can take you to someone who may know someone who may know someone where the president is. So that was the chill. And that cyclist was outside the house. There was no movement out there, honestly. There was firing going on. And the cyclist, Major Dillon was there, and Kanjoshi was there. They got together. The cyclist took them to someone who took them to one of the major's house, who took them to the defense minister's house, and he went to the safe house of the president. And then we went and said, we are here with the compliments of the government of India. It's an invitation, right? And then we said, we have our mission is to take you back to India. He said, I'm not going anywhere, right? And rightly so. And then we asked him, if you're not going anywhere, we got instructions. He said, okay, let me speak to the president, to your prime minister. And the only place we could speak to the prime minister was the NSS headquarters. I'm sure, Mr. Ahmed, NSS headquarters, MNDF now, but at NSS that time. And NSS headquarters under fire. So we had to sanitize the headquarters. And my commander told me, now that the president has been rescued, if something happens to him, that is a shame on us. Right? If something happened before we went in, and there's a 16 hours operation only 16 hours. Right? And then he spoke to the Prime Minister around 4 in the morning. And then we were told, you will abide by the directions and the orders of the President of Maldives. It is 3rd of November, and 12th of November was swearing in, if my dates are correct, after so many years. So my point is that tomorrow if something was to be there, which HADR or any other mission was there, the first response, the immediate response, the nearest response, the effective response is possibly from India only. No, because we have the capacities. And that, I think the government of Maldives will sooner or later realize. That's why I said it is not only of Cactus. Of Cactus is one of its own. It is the first intervention of, and fortunately, it forces us to build capabilities to intervene at the request of the host nations. Right? And that time, if you recollect, even Sri Lanka operations were on after the Rajiv Gandhi Jewar Accord. So it was tsunami. Who was the first responder? It was India. Neil, water. Who was the first responder? COVID. So it is but natural that India would be the first responder, being the closest and having the capabilities and the capacities actually. The closest in Sri Lanka is close enough, but would they have the capacities? I really don't know. They may or may not. And it's a very fragile sort of environment we live in today. And things do go wrong, whether it is cyclones and cyclone shifted from where when what was the Arabian Sea, and things are moving bad. Climate security is uncovered. Climate is a major threat. And today, we can make a pandemic is COVID is gone, but COVID is not really gone. Actually, COVID is still here, and Kerala is affected. So we'll have to look at it. So I think it's the interest of India and Maldives to work together, to be together, and look at the future together.
Thank you, sir. The very reason that I asked you this question is even among a lot of Indian, let's say, youngsters who are keen and who are trying to follow this one, they don't have this first account. That's one. Second, some of the writings have also been coming in. Is it high time that India should respect and move out? And these type of things are there. The very concept that I wanted to bring in here is that Indian forces are there not to serve India's purpose, rather to serve Maldives' purpose. That's exactly what you brought out, where the Indian administration very, very clearly instructed you people, saying that the call will be taken by the Maldivian president at that particular point of time in crisis. That's going to be the same case even today when the forces are there. And that should be the take home today from this particular session itself. Listening from those people who are directly involved in the operation, them, and someone who's involved in the geopolitics, that is Mr. Adeeb. That's exactly what we wanted to do here. Because invariably what we tried emphasizing is that given any point of time, any sort of crisis, from humanitarian to a military one to any sort of one, India would be the one which would want to respond without any sort of an expectation, the non-reciprocity concept, because India would not want to be the country that would want to exploit a situation and take over or anything. We have not been preaching even democracy, for that matter, being the biggest democracy. That's exactly what I wanted the youngsters to know, that India's presence there is not to show our supremacy. India's presence there is not to have an espionage or trying to do damage to Maldives or anything, but it's in the interest of both the countries' relation, but it's also the greater interest of Maldives' presence there, or Maldives' overall security itself, which is based on some of the historical anecdotes, which is very important for us to appreciate at this juncture. If both of you agree, we would perhaps take maybe 2 or 3 questions. We will not take much of your time. If any of you have questions, please raise your hand. We will be able to entertain maximum 2 to 3 questions. And this has to be questions, not going to be commentaries or long lectures now. So in fact, they have to be very, very pointed questions. Anmol Kumar, I will allow you to go first. Please direct the question to whom it is, whether it is to Lieutenant General Bhatia or to Mr. Adeeb specifically.
So my question is to you only. Sir, can we say that this is a coercive diplomacy against Maldives by using soft power, by through the social media and other things? We have cancelled a lot of tickets to Maldives. So can we say Indian response as coercive diplomacy through soft power channel?
Okay, the question is to me only as a chair, but which perhaps should have been for the for the speakers here to precisely answer his question. No, it is not coercive diplomacy, but it is a simple response that is largely by the people. Still now, if you remember, the opening remarks by the Lieutenant General was there is a difference between the reaction by the people and the response from the government, because reaction is emotional, that is naturally understandable. A prime minister is abused or there is a racist remark, and how people will react to it, whereas the government has not reacted to it. Government has responded to it. The Ministry of External Affairs, for that matter, or anyone, they have been very, very careful in what they are trying to do. They are not enticing people, or they are not trying to induce people and trying to tell them do this or do that or anything of that sort. They are not engaging any sort of mudslinging. So there is no coercive diplomacy. It's largely the sentiments of the people that has been pouring out in different forms, and it's the decisions of the people to take something by themselves. So the government is no way involved in this one. Neither in a democracy that the government will be in capacity to tell them now abolish traveling to Maldives, or neither it would ever say that now all of you cancel tickets. I don't think India has stooped down to that level. So I don't call that as coercive diplomacy, but India is doing what is expected to, because if India enters into coercive diplomacy and does something like that, perhaps it will lose its value, whatever that it has gained so far. That's not how diplomacy works. That's not how what is a statecraft works. I think they have moved beyond that one. I think India has, over a period of time, learned how to respond rather than to react. I think that's a very balanced way of India dealing with it. That's why there are no erratic comments that are being made. There are no ministers who are talking left and right about it. I think there's a controlled response to whatever that is happening, because they're also waiting and watching. They're giving time for President Mizu to settle down and understand his own follies, understand his own moves, what it perhaps would lead into. So I don't really agree with that thought of coercive diplomacy. Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question? Okay, I have a question. Perhaps I'll read it out. This is to Lieutenant General. This is from Preetham Sarvabudya. He asks that how you see security concerns for India, keeping in mind Maldives' closeness with China in terms of economic debt, control of islands under leases like the Fayadu, Finholu Island, and the BRI. And to Argish Akolkar asked this question to Mr. Adeeb. You highlighted the Chinese debt trap policy through its commercial rate non-viable loans. How would the recent attempts of Mizu to seek Chinese tourists, which are completely state-driven and controlled, along with the unilateral FTA, would not this make Malay extremely commercially reliant to the opinions or interest of a totalitarian regime like China? Probably General Bhatia can answer first, and then we'll have Mr. Adeeb.
Thank you. There's no doubt that's a geostrategic and a security concern for India. Chinese base on our, in our neighborhood is not good for India-China security. Like I said, China's containment policy continues. The string of pearls we have spoken about a lot. But that does not mean that if China comes there that, we will become insecure. No, it does not mean that. We'll have to find ways and means to invest more in our security. And, as a nation, we look to, transform nation to for peace, stability, economic development. So when you talk about stability, we have to spend more, we invest more, and that is not really in our immediate interest now. Our immediate interest is to look after the well-being of our 1.45 or 1.5 billion people. So that is where I think the concerns are. And when Chinese, in case they were to make, they were to have bases, I think Maldives has, the people very strong, very good. They will realize that this is not the way forward for Maldives also. Because when the Chinese come in, they come in with their own infrastructure, with their own companies, with their own investments, with their own monies, and they take back much more than they plow. And Pakistan too has seen it now. But not only that, Pakistan is a client state, and look at the CPEC. So much investment come in, but what has Pakistan actually gained from investment? Nothing. They have not really gained. Sri Lanka. So these are case studies, and these are temporary things which happen in the relations. And I don't think this has impacted India-Maldives relation. Yes, it has antagonized some of the Indians, and we are sentimental people. So what? But that does not mean that we should antagonize the Maldivian region. No, sorry, we should not. They're very good people. They're very peace-loving people. I've been there not only in 1988, but a couple of times more. They treat you with utmost respect. They look forward to you coming out there. And the people-to-people contact should continue, and we should invest in each other. The confidence, the love, the respect, the shared value we have should continue. So that is where I think, and as a geostrategy concerned, like China will do what it has to do. We can't stop China doing what it wants to do. China's got big, deep pockets. It has got the money. But unfortunately, there's sharp power which are power. It's not smart power, it's sharp power which they play. And sharp power is either you're with me or you're against me. Right? So that is what China does. And that does not help China in the long run. Today, China is not a well respected, regarded nation by any nation. No, we also have trade with China, and he's the largest trading partner. But that is not the thing. Today, China is not respected anywhere, whether by countries like Taiwan. We look at the conflict flashpoints are all China related, whether it's Korea, whether it's Taiwan, whether it's South China Sea, whether it's India-China boundary, whether it's a Mekong issue. So you look at China in the conflict scenario. We talk of Maldives, they'll come and make a base, but they've got enough concerns of their own also, and they're trying to protect their own concerns.
No, I absolutely concur with Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, a good friend like Mr. Adeeb himself. They have high regards, they're pragmatic, they know what the value that India brings on table. I'm absolutely in agreement with you, sir. Mr. Adeeb, the question to you.
Thank you very much. So, as Lieutenant General told us a little bit earlier, it is not just one day that we can replace Indian tourists with Chinese tourists. It's not how it works. Because I was a tourism minister, I have seen that when markets are created because of the logistics, the demand, and marketing, so it requires a lot of. For example, if you were to say India and China, we need to see a lot of flights, a lot of charter flights, a lot of scheduled flights. So there's to be a lot of marketing. So it doesn't happen in one day. And what we see from today is that the Chinese overall Chinese tourists are not traveling after the COVID. So they have their own economic challenges as well. So we are not suddenly going to be replaced by the Indian tourists to Chinese tourists. That is not going to happen in a sudden future. So that has to be seen. And as rightly said, that it is up to us. I mean, it is up to Maldives to balance the foreign policy. It's up to our country to see where we go forward with our country. And it is what is the most beneficial thing for our country. Is it to be one-sided? I would say it is because of the successive governments which is coming in Maldives. They should think that balancing the foreign policy and be friends with all, and working towards with the neighbors, because we cannot change the neighbors. Neighbors will be there, and we are there for each other. And with the neighborhood first, then we should go build relationships with far away. So it's up to Maldives, and I hope that as Dr. Nanda said, that President Muiz realizes this fast and follow a policy where it will be more balanced rather than going with the Chinese only strategy. And I would like to personally thank Lieutenant General for the Cactus operation where Maldives was saved. I was also very young, but I remember my father is also a soldier, a Maldivian soldier in Gamadu. So we had a good relationship with India, and then it's always very close to my heart. So thank you very much, sir, even from today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I will quickly perhaps lead one question to Mr. Rohit. I'll club that one. I think more than Lieutenant General, I think Adeeb would be able to answer that one. What they're asking is that is Muiz's political policy overshadowing the national policy? If so, how would it impact Maldives politically, economically, in terms of tourism and trade? That's a question that's coming in. But connected to that one is also that do you see, this is also again from another student by name Vaibhav. He asks that, do you see that the Maldivian government have some sort of factions and disagreement with president's approach, and how influential they are if there are some voices. Probably I'm clubbing some of these questions so that the students don't feel bad. They get rare chances like this to talk to experts. Mr. Adeeb, if you can answer that.
Yeah, yes. I think it collides with the national policy of Maldives, because if you take India, India is not about only the tourism or the medical and the students, and also not only the security agreements, but the trade, the perishables, the eggs, the onions, everything perishable comes from India because it's so nearby and it is affordable to us, plus the freshness of it. So, that cannot be replaced, as well as the construction material. All the construction material comes from India, which cannot be again yet replaced because it's come in bulk. And if you see in Tuticorin, there's a bulk harbor, which is only specialized for Maldivian goods to be exported. So, which comes in bulk. So, which is this policy of will be colliding with the national interest and the expense of bringing these goods. So there has been talks by President Moise that he's going to replace these imports from Turkey, Europe, and sending medicals for Thailand and UAE. But these are all big expenses, and we are not a country like Saudi Arabia, which we produce oil or anything. So we don't have any kind of reserve as well. So it will be a big expense, and it will collide with our national interest if we are going towards this direction. And to the other question, yes, there is a strong voice against these policies. The opposition party MDP, they have the majority in parliament as yet of now, and also they have won the mayor contest even just 3 days back, because their voice is more strong, because Moise is going towards this direction, and people are following them more now, because they have been more against and more towards a balanced approach in foreign policy and diplomacy.
Thank you. There are still questions from Vishwarupa. Then I also see Riya Singh and few others. But unfortunately, as I said, we were able to entertain. I said 3, but we have the speakers have been kind to accommodate more questions. But I'm sure the organizers will create such more opportunities for students to learn and listen to such humble experts. Here, I look forward to many more such sessions. I'm sure that each one of us have learned something or the other from this particular exercise itself. And my heartfelt thanks goes to Mr. Adeeb and Lieutenant General Bhatia for accommodating the questions and also answering all of them very patiently. Now I would hand it over to Ms. Kalpana to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With this, we have come to an end of this insightful and timely discussion. I, on behalf of Indic Researchers Forum, would like to thank the session chair, Dr. Nanda Kishor, sir, and distinguished speakers, Mr. Ahmed Adeeb and Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, sir, for their insightful talk. Also, grateful to our audience for attending the session, and the recording of this session will be uploaded on our YouTube channel in next 48 hours. Do follow our social media handles for our future events. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so very much, Session Chair, Dr.